are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back, TGIF. Hope you're having a great end of the workday and getting ready for a nice weekend. And if you're in San Antonio, happy fiesta. What are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at the Spurs and the play-in again. You know, that is on the horizon. That's on the lips of all Spurs fans. And going to ask kind of a big question is, it will this repeat? Would the Spurs make the play-in this year? Could they make it next year if the West wasn't so beat up as it was this season and if everything stayed on what was projected to happen out in the West? You know, maybe the Lakers not sucking. Also, I'll be looking at Anthony Edwards. He had a personal game, a personal best against the Spurs recently, but man, he was checking those threes up and trying to, put in individual or team against you in black. To do that, I am joined by Jack Thompson. He was San Antonio Sports Star co-host on Saturday Morning Hangover. Jack, welcome back to Locked On Spurs. And would you go old school 90s, on a player like Ant or whoever that was trying to get, put up their buckets on you, and in a game where, at least at that point, the Timberwolves had it in hand, and trying to, just trying to rub it in.
I mean, definitely I would have been up in his grill, probably sending two people at him, just forcing him to pass the ball for sure. It's just, that's a franchise that has no banners, few Hall of Famers.
Here we go.
One All-Star. So they got to get their, their player, personal best or record. So
yeah,
hard to blame them. I mean, if I was in the NBA and it was my second year and I had 40, 48, 47, I'd be throwing up threes too, trying to get to 50. So hard to blame them, but, that's just where the league is right now.
You didn't take that as disrespect? I took it as disrespect. At that point, because the score got close, but before Ant started trying to get his, the Timberwolves scoreboard-wise, had, big enough lead. And then Ant started to go for his. Didn't it feel like stop trying to clown on the Spurs? Stop trying to disrespect the game. I'm pretty sure if it was the other end around, let's just say Keldon Johnson was 5 points away from his career high. Do you think Pop would have played him or sat him? It just felt weird.
Yeah, Pop would have sat him, but the Timberwolves all season, I mean, they've been leaving Karl Anthony Towns in through the whole fourth quarter just so he can go get his numbers. So that's just kind of the way that team is, built. That's kind of like, I guess, how their coach feels, and they're just trying to put up these empty stats behind, L's and small wins. So
yeah,
I didn't really feel disrespected by it. I mean, young player trying to get 50 points. I mean, who wouldn't do the same? So no, I didn't feel disrespected. If it was any team, they would have done the same. So that's just how that team is built up. That's just their identity is just, just go get yours, and we're going to leave you in until you get yours. So no, I didn't take too much away from that.
What is it about the Wolves and the Spurs where, Cat, he gets his, 1 billion points against the Spurs in San Antonio? And then you get
60.
You got 60, and then you have Ant doing his thing last night. So yeah, we're going to talk about the play-in in a few minutes, but if for some reason the Spurs, get past the Pelicans, Minnesota's will be a tough out for them, would it be?
Hey, I wouldn't look past the Clippers to beat Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I don't think they will, but I'm talking about the Spurs, like a Spurs Wolves play-in game, because they would have to face each other, right? If they advance, right? I'm like,
well,
how does that work?
So the play-in works. It's 7 plays 8, 9 plays 10, and then the winner of 7-8 gets a spot. The loser of 7 and 8 plays the winner of 9 and 10, and the winner of that game gets a spot.
Oh, so I mean, I'm expecting Minnesota to handle the Clippers. I mean, they
I think the
should.
Clippers are going to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Get out. Hot take here. Why do you say that?
Well, Paul George is now back, and he's been balling in his last game. And then last night they got Norman Powell back, and he had a great game off the bench in his first return. So I think the identity of that Clippers team is just they're grimy, they're gritty, they're trying to push you around, they're physical, and then they've got bucket getters in Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, and Paul George. So I think that the Clippers beat the Timberwolves.
He is Jack Thompson with San Antonio Sports Star, co-host of the Saturday Morning Hangover, and he's going to be talking to me and you about the Spurs and the play-in. Yeah, so as you know, Jack, the Spurs and Pelicans are going to hook up soon. As of right now, I believe Pelicans will have the home court advantage, right? So
Yeah.
you're hoping for and at best case for a home game in San Antonio, a tied record with the Pelicans. So that'll happen where the Spurs have the tiebreaker. But nevertheless, can I ask you? I don't know if it's a hot topic question or a hot take question, but you look at the Spurs and they made the plan, and good for them. They made it good. A lot of people didn't think they'd be at this point. Fine. But if we really look at it, do you think they would have been in this position if the West didn't have at least the bottom half of it, didn't have such a clunky season? So we'll start off with the obvious at the Lakers. The Lakers, you bring Westbrook and Melo and LeBron and AD's injury. If they stayed healthy, and do they bump out San Antonio? What about the Clippers? Claw and PG-13. They were out for a bulk of the season. Claw still is. Does that change anything? Then you look at a team like even the Pelicans. If they had Zion, does that change things? Do you think this? The Spurs making the play-in, is it just because they're good, or was the West bottom half that bad?
I think there's a little bit of both of that. I think, the Spurs were real young. We started off the season, dropping games, close games that we down the stretch of the fourth quarter. And you look at us now, and now we're finishing those games out. So there's definitely been significant growth with the Spurs. I think that we are a good team. We're just young still, and we're putting it together. And of course, we're still missing some pieces to where that make up a championship team. But I think even if the Lakers were healthy and Pelicans were healthy, Clippers were healthy, I think we would still be, we would either be this 10 or we'd be the 11th spot right behind it, outside looking in, with just a couple games to go, fighting to get in there. So I think either way, we're sitting about right where our top projected trajectory was for this season. Whether the other teams were healthy or whether they're not, we came in every night and we took care of our own business. It's not our fault that y'all are missing players. So, we came out, took care of business, and we're sitting in the play-in tournament now. So I think it's either way, the Spurs would have been pretty much right where they are now.
You throw in the Trailblazers as well, because they had the deal with CJ, but fine, you trade CJ, but you still have Dame. Dame's out too, and
Dame's not enough.
But yeah, well, Dame's not enough. But maybe those 2 games in San Antonio with Dame, and that makes things different for the Spurs. Maybe he gets his. That's a loss there. Maybe I don't know if Dame is in the lineup. And those they play the Spurs 3-4 times. I feel like they played them a billion times this year. But do the Spurs sweep them? So it just I'm not just trying to discount what the Spurs did this season. They did good. It's not their, like you mentioned, it's not their fault. Teams were banged up, and the Lakers were a mess, and PG and Claw had issues health wise. But if you look in our crystal ball, Jack, and look at next season, let's just say the Lakers retool. And 80 is 100% healthy, although that'll probably never happen. But do they repeat as a play-in team if everything goes according to what many think should have happened this year? The Spurs, missing the playoffs, missing the play-in, teams being at full strength. do you think the Spurs still do what they did this year next season?
Yeah, I think we'll still be hovering around you know, 8 to 11 spot. We definitely need to have a good offseason of our own in regards to the draft and free agency, and that could easily bump us up into playoff contention rather than play-in contention. So I think we've come up a hill now as the Spurs try to regain their, championship aspirations. I think we have come up a hill and we have, um, kind of, I don't want to say reached expectations early, but I think through this season, they have grown a whole lot. DeJounte has made leaps and bounds. We're seeing Keldon now 8 games in a row, 20 points. Devin is starting to find his own. We saw Lonnie get real hot before he got injured. So I think with the growth that the players have made, our key players, I think that we are pretty stand pat in where we are right now. And next season, I think will be even better. So I think play-in is right where we're looking at as far as trajectory next season as the team sits right now. If we can retool and bring in some really good young rookies too, I think that maybe the playoffs isn't out of reach for us. So I think we're sitting right where we should be right now in terms of where our expectations lie.
Yeah, I look at the Spurs team and they definitely had a schedule. Did they have some luck? Of course they did. We mentioned all the injuries in the bottom half of the West being kind of a mess. And what I like about this team, the Spurs team, that is they made the play in and secured the play in without
Mhm.
DeJounte Murray in the lineup. He's been out, because of illness.
Yeah.
They're relying on a 19-year-old kid who's starting for them in the recent games to secure the 10th seed. Uh, Jack, do you think the Spurs, making the play in is a step in their development? Or do you think that maybe, they shouldn't be at this point already, like too much too soon?
I think it's a good step in the development. Maybe not as far as like the actual skill in playing on the court, but as far as the mental aspect, I think now these young guys look at themselves and look at the team and are like, you know what? We can do this. We are as good as these teams. We can go out, win these games, close out close games down the stretch of the fourth quarter, and we can take down just about anybody. I mean, we took down the Nuggets with the reigning player in the league. I mean, we've seen Jokic have the best season of any player of all time this year with
Hmm.
2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 assists. I mean, that's freaking incredible. That's the best season of all time. And we went
Yeah,
into their house and
and
we took them
and
down.
yeah, not to mention too, talk about Dejounte Murray's triple doubles. I mean, Joker's
Yeah.
triple doubles like nightly now for him. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
talking about them going to the house and beating them, huh?
Yeah. So I think this team looks themselves in the mirror now and they're like, you know what? We're young. But we can go out and we can do this. We are good enough to take out these top teams. And I think as that's the biggest step that a young team can make is, the realization that they belong in this league and they can be a contender with these top teams. So I think it's as far as development that way, I think it's a huge step for us.
Jack, we usually come on and talk about college prospects and the draft and everything, but we got to bring it up now. Okay, fine, they're in the play-in. Hopefully they make some noise. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the draft,
Hmm.
um, I think, I guess the nuclear option, so to speak, or the kill switch would be if somehow they advance, go into the playoffs. Would
Yeah.
that bother you? Would you be like, okay, great, you got these 3 first rounders, but look where we stand? I think how do you balance that?
It's tough. I mean, I think in the long run, the lower or I get yeah, the lower picks we have in the lottery would have been better, but as far as the short-term development of the guys that we have, I think making this playoff push could be huge for them. We've seen teams like the Suns and the Grizzlies just, 3 years ago, they were the bottom teams in the Western Conference Finals. These were the teams that were sitting at, you know, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 10, and now those are the top 2 teams in the West. So it's all about, incremental growth and taking steps towards that. And making the play-in push and getting into the playoffs would be a huge step forward for this team in terms of, again, realization that we are as good as we want to be as far as competitive wise and out on the court getting things done. We can do it with the best of them, and we've shown it over these last 10 games. So I think as far as that goes, making the play-in for the next couple seasons, as far as the growth would be, I think would be huge. But I think long term, over, the next decade or so, getting these, if we would have had a higher pick in the lottery, it may have been better. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, two-way street kind of thing, where it's a small win to make the play-in and have this incremental growth that we are expecting from our young guys. But bringing in generational talent, I think, always wins out, and you only get that at the top of the draft.
Probably a very stupid question, because I think I know you're going to go with this, but this is not fool's gold, right? Seeing the Spurs, overachieve this year. This is real.
Yeah,
This is not. Yeah, yeah. How do you see that?
I think it is. I see it as real. I mean, the sample size has been large enough to where I think that the Spurs have legitimately taken that next step forward in terms of being a competitive team in this Western Conference. So I don't see it as fool's gold. While we've beaten up on some lesser teams like the Trailblazers and the other
Right.
bottom half teams of the Western Conference, but it's still we still are only led by a 24-year-old or 20 what? How old is
Yeah.
DeJounte? 26. We
Yeah.
still are only led by one young all-star who is just now reaching his prime. So the only way to go up, the only way to go from here is up, and we're taking that trajectory. So no, I don't see it as fool's gold at all.
He is Jack Thompson with San Antonio Sports Star right here talking about the Spurs in the play-in. But if you want to put some money down on how the Spurs will do, well, we got a place for you. It's called betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. The Spurs are in the play-in. If you have another team that you think is going to do well in the playoffs, East, Western Conference, doesn't matter. BetOnline is your go-to spot for all the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championship, odds, podcasts, reviews for all different leagues this season, MLB, NFL, NBA, you name it. BetOnline is your continuous source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. I go there. You should go there too. Hey, they even have odds on what Becky Hammond might do with the Lakers. Yeah, the next Lakers coach, they have the odds on that. Once again, betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Bet online where the game starts. Once again, we're here with Jack Thompson with San Antonio Sports Star. Jack, a few more things about the Spurs in the play-in tournament here. We got Jack back. Is you look at the development, and I had a chance to speak with the NBA's strategy analytics competition guy out there. And he
Mm-hmm.
told me that he had conversations with the Spurs about the play-in tournament. And the reaction from the Spurs was they see it as a developmental tool. Is that the right way to look at the play-in tournament?
You know, I don't know how much a developmental tool a one game out or 2 games out could
Mhm.
be. I think it's more of a mental development rather than, physical skills aspect because things like this, if we win one game or we lose the first game, whatever it may be, it will, kind of ignite that fire even more under these guys as to, we belonged in here, we thought we could make it out. Let's retool, regroup, and hit it strong again next year and make it out of the play-in or make it into the playoffs. And keep taking those incremental growth. So if anything, it just fuels the hunger, fuels the fire underneath these young guys, and builds their mental aspect of the game and their want to that way. So there is something to be said about that developmental tool phrasing that's been thrown around about us reaching the play in, but I think it's more, building up the mental aspect of it rather than it making our guys better on the court. I don't really see how a 1 game or 2 games can really do that as opposed to a 7-game series,
Mhm.
but there's definitely some growth that could be had by making the plan.
Yeah, his reaction to my question, he was like, that's a really good, aspect of playing tournament. He said they didn't have any data about that, but one of the teams that spoke out in favor of it was the Spurs. He mentioned a couple of other teams I don't recall, but yeah. So the NBA loves the play in. The Spurs obviously love the play in. As a matter of fact, Jack, a quick side here. He even said during our conference call with him that the NBA may tinker with the idea of letting the top seeds in each conference pick their first round opponent. Would you go for that?
Interesting. Um,
That'd be
Maybe.
fun.
I mean, it'd be fun for sure. I'm, you know, I'm gonna watch either way, so it's no skin off my back either for sure. And it would be really cool to see like a 17 be like, oh, we want to play that 10th seed, and then the 10th seed upsets them. So yeah, I mean that would make great television, great ratings. So that would certainly be pretty interesting.
We're gonna be looking at tomorrow's game because this is the last Locked On Spurs for the week. So we'll be looking at the Spurs Warriors game in just a few minutes. But just a few more thoughts and questions about the play-in. The Spurs got the Pelicans. They seem to match up well against the Pelicans. Bi may be the difference maker for them. How do you see that series going down? We're days away. You've had some time to
Hmm.
kind of think about the opposition here. Spurs Pelicans. How do you see that thing going?
And it's going to be a tough one for sure. You said Bi might be the X factor, but I would say for over a decade now, we've seen CJ McCollum march into the Spurs games and just come out
Wreck
and
them.
kill us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have no answer for that guy. He is a microwave of a player. Takes no time for him to get hot, and it's going to be a tough game. There's no doubt about it. If anything, I would probably my game plan would be, throw everything at CJ and let's see if, BI, who hasn't done anything in his career, hasn't had a long playoff run, doesn't have the playoff experience that CJ McCollum does, and see if a young player like that can beat us on his own. So I would I would just make CJ give the ball up and see if BI can do it himself. I think that would be the best game plan. But it's going to be a tough one. I mean, the Pels, they've hit their stride down the stretch of the season too, and they cemented themselves in the play-in just like we did. So
Yep.
it's two teams that are looking to, bolster their name and gain some recognition. So it's going to be a
Hmm.
tough out. It's going to be a tough one, and it's hard for me to call it. Of course, I want the Spurs to go in and win it,
Yeah.
and I lean that way. I think we definitely can, but there's no guarantee for sure. It's going to be tough.
We're talking about the X factor for the Pelicans. I mentioned Bi. You mentioned I'm sorry, CJ. What about the Spurs? Who do you want to see step up and have a tremendous game?
Well, I'd love to see DeJounte come back next week healthy for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
And we're definitely gonna need Keldon to continue his 20-point per game streak. But I think the X factor for us is kind of a two-part. I think that Devin has to have a great showing, not only
Sure.
offensively but
Hmm.
defensively, because I think he might see some of that BI action because he kind of matches up the length and
Hmm.
quickness wise.
Right.
But also, I look for our seasoned vet, Josh Richardson, off the bench, who has a lot of playoff experience. He's going to
Oh
have
yeah.
a big game. He's going to have to come in, be the consummate pro he is, knock down open threes, and he's got to be a really good on ball primary defender because once DeJounte or Devin is subbed out and he comes in and he becomes that primary defender, he's going to have to be able to lock down and take care of his business. So I think it comes down to really Devin and Josh doing their part and holding their own and taking care of business. And if they do that, I think we come out with the W.
I'm looking at Lonnie Walker. I think Lonnie's going to have to really, really bolster that second unit, really give it the punch. He's been kind of in and out lately, dealing with the back issues.
Mm-hmm.
The worst time, right when he was hitting his stride, man. I mean, it's hit with that. But hopefully, the next few remaining regular season games, he gets back on track. I'm definitely looking at Lonnie to be that X factor for San Antonio. Once again, we're with Jack Thompson, co-host of the Saturday Morning Hangover over at San Antonio Sports Star, 1250 AM, 103.3 FM. But before we look at tomorrow's game, Spurs Warriors, I want to talk to you about Built Bars. Look, have you fallen off your New Year's resolution, trying to lose some weight? Well, Built Bar was here to get you back on track. Yeah, you can eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like you're not really having a solution because they're really good. They're really good and they taste good. It tastes like a candy bar. They have this new thing called a puff. It's like a marshmallow protein infused puff. So yeah, they're puffy, they're marshmallowy, they're just a protein bar at the end of the day, but they taste like a treat and they're covered in 100% of real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors, such as a churro, cinnamon, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. Yeah, they're going to be your new favorite. I tried them. I had boxes of them delivered to me. Love them. Go through them quick. Built bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, including the puff bars too. 100% real chocolate. Low calorie, high protein. What more can you ask for? Well, you can do this. You can replace your candy bars with these. They're better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. You don't want that. Go to built.com right now. Scroll down to the macros chart. You're going to be blown away. I promise you. High protein, low cal, high fiber, low carb. Most built bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Yeah. You want to replace your candy bars with these ASAP. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious. New flavors coming out all the time. And I think you'll find your new favorite among the many variety of flavors that Built Bars have. And they're good for you. They're all about the taste. They make deliciousness first. And your health comes first as well. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15, 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Jack, Spurs, Warriors tomorrow night. A game that I don't want to say meaningless, because the Spurs are already secured at the 10 spot unless a miracle happens or they go into the 9. But, how do you want the Spurs to play in these last few games? Just fine tune things. What do you want to see cleaned up?
Yeah, definitely tune things, especially on the defensive end. But I expect the Spurs to go hard these next two games. I mean, we've got to
Really?
keep that
Yeah.
mental edge ready. We've got to be, primed and ready to go and take in this playing tournament. And like I said before, it's not a 7-game series. It's only one game at a time. So I expect them to treat it like the regular season. And these, last two games as well, I expect us, go hard, go get the dubs, and keep the momentum rolling. The Warriors have won their last 3, but they dropped their previous 4 before that. So they're kind of an up and down team. They don't have Steph right now, so they're imminently beatable. So, and the thing is, we play the Warriors this the next game, and then the Warriors' next game is against the Pelicans. So that's kind of like a see where we're at, see
Mhm.
what team is looking better right now. We'll get to see the sample size between both teams facing the Warriors and see what the outcome is like. So, and that could also potentially, the Pelicans drop this game, we win against the Warriors, and then the Pelicans lose to the Warriors, and we win our next game, and then suddenly we're tied and we get the home advantage. So if we take care of business and the Pelicans don't the next 2 games, it's still playoff seeding and playing
Mhm.
seeding to be had. So I expect the Spurs to keep it rolling and go 100% try and take these teams out and get ready for the play-in.
And also too, they're coming off that loss to Minnesota. Look, they did well late in the game. Clawing back from that deficit they had. Sure, did it help that Ant was trying to get his and that totally destroyed their focus of just getting the W. That's it. But yeah, I would like to see them bounce back from that game. I think beating a Warriors team that's playoff bound would help boost their confidence. Right now, I just want them to have confidence, you know, calm, take care of these little nicks and bumps and bruises, get Jock back, get
Mm-hmm.
DeJounte back, get Lonnie back, stuff like that. Yeah. And I think the Spurs will do well versus the Warriors, but it's the final home regular season game as well. It's a fan appreciation night. So for those fans that are going out there, you're going to have some fun, free stuff. Maybe Jack will show up there and sign some autographs. Can you do that for the fan base, Jack?
I can do that for the fans, yeah.
He is
I
Jack
know
Thompson.
how
Oh, by the way, before
badly.
by the way, before I let you go, because these are the last two regular season games, tomorrow night tomorrow night, and then the back-to-back Sunday against Dallas. How do you see these last two games going? Think they're going to close it out on a 2-0 or 1-1 or 0-2?
I see us beating the Warriors. I think the Mavs are really hot right now, and Luka's easily one of the best players in the league. So I think that one is a little bit tougher, but it really just depends on if the Mavs and the Warriors are putting it all out there, if they're really
Hmm.
trying to go hard or if they're kind of, shutting it down a little bit and resting for their series to come in the following weeks. So it really just depends on what kind of teams we see out there. I think we could definitely go 2-0. I think 1-1 is a little more realistic, but I think we
Hmm.
could take them both down.
Yeah, I'm right there with it. I think the Spurs go 2-0. I think they, take it to the Warriors. They want to send a message out to them. This team is gunning the Spurs. That is, Vassell said it recently. DJ said it as well. Jakob was very vocal about it, Jack, saying that, okay, yay, we made the play in, but our next goal is the playoffs. So, if they want to get to that playoff level, then we need to see that playoff mentality tomorrow night versus the Warriors and, of course, versus the Mavericks. He is Jack Thompson with San Antonio Sports Star. Jack, tell us why fans should be tuning into the Saturday morning hangover with you and James Pledger and the rest of the crew out there at the Star.
Oh yeah, Saturday morning hangover. Great way to start off your weekend. If you've been too busy at work or, just dealing with life to catch up on all the major sporting headlines, me and my man James Pledge got you on the Saturday morning hangover. We run down all the major headlines through the week and all the major sports. And then right after that, we go into the post up where we're breaking down specifically basketball, so we'll definitely be doing a lot of play-in stuff, a lot of playoff talk, and just talking about, the trajectory of the Spurs and what we think we want to see from them in these next couple weeks and then heading into the off season. So if any of that, tickles your fancy, tune in to me and Pledge every Saturday from 9 to noon.
Hey, I'm gonna do you a favor right now. Don't forget tomorrow's his birthday. So when you're on air, you gotta wish him
Yes,
happy
I
birthday.
do. I do know. Yep.
Yeah, because he will kill you if you don't remember that. You don't want him upset, James. Are you gonna be partying with him for his birthday, or maybe just catching up with him?
I'm gonna try to. I've got some games to coach during the week, and then I work
Yeah.
or not during the day tomorrow, and then I have work Saturday night. So hopefully after I get off work, I can go and catch up with them. But we'll see. It's gonna be kind of play by ear.
Yeah. I'm gonna catch up with him late at night. I already told him, that I'll catch him up at late at night. But I'm pretty sure he might be faded by then. So he probably wouldn't even
Yeah,
remember that I showed up. He probably call me the next day. You didn't show up to my birthday party. I'm like, I was there, dude. You were on the floor
I
face
was
down.
there.
Yeah, I was there. I have proof. I'm gonna have to take photos of proof in case he's so wasted. He is Jack Thompson at Jack Thompson _33. Make sure to follow him. He's a great follow for everything you need. Come Spurs, NBA, and right now too, you really want to hit him up because if you have college prospect questions, Spurs fans, he is the man to go to. He loves college ball. That is his bread and butter. Talks about these mock drafts. Who does he want to see the Spurs draft once the dust settles and the Spurs know where they'll be selecting? So, yeah, follow Jack right now. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Pick a platform. We're there, iTunes, Stitcher, even YouTube. Yes, the YouTube page is now active. Go check out the YouTube right now. We appreciate you subscribing to it and making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Spurs Warriors tomorrow night. Spurs Mavericks the following day. Check out Locked On Mavs and Locked On Warriors. See what they have to say about tomorrow's game and the Sunday as well. So for Jack Thompson, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.